Good afternoon, I'm Vashan Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, JHTA, has revealed that the government was shut down in its attempt to get support from airlines and the Regional Tourist Association to have mandatory testing for tourists. Chairman of the Montego Bay chapter of the JHTA, Robin Russell, made the comment as he sought to explain the rationale behind the government's decision not to make testing for COVID-19 mandatory for tourists when the country's airports reopened to international travelers on June 15. Jamaicans entering up to June 14 will have to undergo testing. Prince Moore has the details.
The announcement by the government that visitors to the island will do voluntary testing for COVID-19 has left some Jamaicans feeling uneasy, especially with the warning from the Minister of Health to brace for a spike in cases in light of the easing of restrictions. Speaking today on the morning agenda on Poro 106, Chairman of the Montego Bay Chamber of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, Robin Russell, said the government was left with limited option. He explained that the JHTA had recommended testing of tourists to the government and encouraged it to discuss the matter with the airlines.
But what we were told and what we got from the discussion was the airlines did not have the capacity to do it. Whether they wanted to or not, that's another thing, but they decided that they were not going to do it. We then lobbied the CHTA, which is the Caribbean Hotel and Tourist Association, to say we needed as a Caribbean to stand up and say we needed this testing. You know, if we stood as a body, Caribbean body, then maybe we would have a voice. The CHTA said that they would not require testing either. The WHO has said that they were not going to require testing they didn't see it as plausible for airlines to be testing. So Jamaica had a choice. Either we were going to stand alone and miss the opportunity for flights to come into Jamaica or open the doors.
The revelation ran counter to Prime Minister Andrew Holness's assertion that insufficient testing equipment formed part of the decision to allow for voluntary testing for tourists. For opposition spokesman on tourism, Dr. Wickham McNeil, despite being part of the discussion to reopen the sector, he was not made aware that testing would be voluntary for visitors. Dr. McNeil says he was of the view that the tourism industry was advocating for testing.
I am not certain at what point a decision was taken or consultation was made to change that policy. But it certainly was done without me being informed or having had discussions, and took me by surprise. And what I really need more than everything else is for the government to inform me clearly what weighed on their mind to take this decision.
He is therefore questioning the rush to reopen the industry, considering it is now in the slow period.
From a business point of view, if I open up my country on the 15th and God forbid 2 weeks, a month later, you get a second wave, even if you contain it, you're going to have to lock it down to contain that. Now, the ramifications of opening and locking down are going to make the real reopening far more difficult and far more costly on everybody.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And in related news from overseas, air travel started bouncing back in May, although it's still nowhere near pre-pandemic levels. The number of people going through airport security checkpoints nearly doubled over the course of the month. The Transportation Security Administration says it screened nearly 949,000 passengers over the last weekend, compared to 476,000 people over the first weekend in May. While the increases are significant, the pandemic has dealt an unprecedented blow to the airline industry. On the busiest day in May, only 14% of travelers flew compared to the equivalent day in 2019. Back on the local scene, the president of the JHTA, Omar Robinson, says it will not be business as usual for the association as plans intensify to reopen the tourism sector. He says even though the 300,000 workers in the sector were impacted by the downturn due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the return will be on a phased basis and retraining of workers will be paramount. Mr. Robinson says with a timeline now provided for visitors to the island, the impetus is now for information to be passed on to the travel agents overseas in a bid to shore up our local economy, which was dealt a severe blow due to COVID-19.
Providing the startup date is imperative for our international partners, especially our airlines, which need sufficient time to resume flights and put their schedules in place so that they can start flying into the island. We have already seen airlines such as American, JetBlue and Southwest. They have all expressed a strong intent on starting up flights, and some of them have already sent out flight schedules.
A member of the Senate has expressed concern that key COVID-19 protocols are not being observed at Gordon House. The matter was raised by Senator Sapphire Longmore during yesterday's meeting of the Joint Select Committee of Parliament considering the Occupational Health and Safety Bill. Senator Longmore said she has also raised the matter with the Clerk of the Houses of Parliament.
I'm a bit concerned that we're not having temperature checks coming into the Parliament, and the usual measures that you're seeing outside that are ensuring that persons who may be symptomatic, etc., are being recognized. So I think we maybe want to add our voice to that request of the temperature checks and the sanitization practices at the entrances.
And as the economy slowly reopens, opposition spokesman on Social Security Horace Daly is questioning the readiness of the business process outsourcing BPO sector for the working with COVID-19 experience. Speaking at yesterday's Joint Select Committee, Mr. Daly argued that in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Occupation Health and the Safety Bill is necessary for establishing protocols in the workplace, particularly in BPOs. However, a revised Occupation Health and the Safety Bill is yet to be passed. Mr. Daly raised concern about the safety of workers since the work-from-home order has expired.
I'm appealing, it's really an appeal in light of the new situation that the workplace, under whose instructions or under whose authority will we authorize that a BPO is now fully safe for the workers?
Mr. Daly said the bill needs to be passed quickly in order to regulate workplace operations in the new norm. Prime Minister Andrew Holness implemented work-from-home orders in March as part of the measures to contain the spread of COVID-19, but it expired on May 31. We now take a break on the midday news, but we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Continuing the news. The People's National Party PNP last night signed off on its 63 candidates for the next general election. The final 4 aspirants were approved.
Raymond Price in Central St. Catherine, Keith Brown in North East St. Anne, Donald Jackson in North East Manchester, and George Hamilton in Northwest St. James. The executive also approved a revision to our political calendar. We are going to be doing our annual AGMs by the end of June. That's the new deadline. And we're suspending our divisional constituency and regional conferences due to the COVID outbreak and our preparations for impending elections.
3 men brandishing guns attempted to rob the gas mart service station in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth this morning. The incident took place about 3:45. TVJ News understands that the gunmen defaced the surveillance cameras and fired several shots at some workers. However, the security officer on duty returned fire and the gunmen fled the area. Manager at the Gas Mart service station, Dennis Roberts, spoke with our news center.
We're not coward. We're not afraid of what is happening right now. We expect those things to happen in this time, as you hear I mentioned in previous argument. Because the police is really working hard in the day. I don't know how hard they are working at night, but maybe they need to put out more staffing at night too, because these guys are coming out the hours with the police are might be not so plenty on the road.
Now, the incident is the second of its kind at the service station in 4 months, and there have also been concerns about the number of robberies in St. Elizabeth over the past few months. Time now for sports. The 1,000 and 2,000 guineas are part of a new 10-race day projection that promoting company Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited has put up on its website. However, the Guinness trials have been scrapped. Here's Denise Walters.
Both of the 1,000 and 2,000 guineas are the first classics of the season, which has been curtailed by the COVID-19 coronavirus. And according to the adjusted calendar, they are set to be run on separate days once racing resumes. Former 18-time champion trainer Wayne DaCosta says, while he's happy things are progressing in the right direction, he thinks a couple of races are missing.
Race goers usually look forward to the preps leading up to the classics. This year, the Thornbird and the Prince Consort have been abandoned by the promoter. Not sure the reason why they were abandoned, but they were abandoned. Whether it was a monetary factor or it was they figured that they just never had enough space to run them. But we were not notified. We were just made aware when the program came out that these two classic preps were omitted from the program.
DaCosta says the good 3-year-olds have been going through their paces despite the COVID-19 pandemic and are up to scratch for the big days.
You're going to have the ones who had not raced yet improve quite a bit, so you never can tell. It can be interesting in it, both sections. I think the course will probably have more interest than the fillies this year because you have quite a few good courses around. So not quite sure how to answer your question, whether it'll be a smash or it'll be a flop. But all in all, just glad to get the program on the road on the 13th, and let's hope we'll have a race day on that day.
Former 2-time champion jockey Shane Ellis, who rode Supreme Soul to Triple Crown glory in 2019, says some horses may need more work. Ellis, who is also the president of the Jamaica's Jockeys Guild, notes his group is ready.
So we just have to keep our fingers crossed and open for the best. But myself and the other jockeys, we're raring to go. We're working horses in the morning, training in the evening, so we're raring to go.
Meanwhile, Dr. Sophia Ramlal, Senior Jamaica Racing Commission veterinarian, told TVJ Sports that the policy paper to get racing underway will be sent off to the Ministry of Health in short order. A second stakeholders meeting was held on Saturday that included owners, trainers, jockeys agents, along with the regulators and promoting company.
A lot of feedback and discussions were held with the idea that we could get alignment around a plan that would be workable and could be submitted to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The project team is on target to submit that policy paper later on this week, within a few days.
Stakeholders are seeking a June 13 start date. Racing has been indefinitely suspended at Caymanes Park since March 21. Denise Walters for TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package on behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams. Have a good afternoon.